Good evening, HDSB staff and students, parents tuning in. Welcome to the Getting Ready for Experiential Learning virtual series. I am Wonuola Yomiodedei, and I am the acting Experiential Learning Lead K-12 at Halton District School Board. We are very happy to see you today. To learn more about what cooperative education in the Halton District School Board is, it is all about the many ways in which it can make your pathway planning come alive and exciting, regardless of which post-secondary pathway you choose. An important task that we need to focus on as we work towards a more equitable and inclusive community, school, country, and world is to keep our learning moving forward. The HDSB is hosting the Directors Panel Series on Identity, Inclusion, and Human Rights for students, staff, and community members to raise awareness on historical and contemporary challenges on identity, equity, inclusion, and human rights. The first session took place on Monday, February 7th at 6 p.m. with a focus on anti-Semitism. Future sessions will focus on topics such as Black excellence, which will come up on February 28th. Upcoming topics on transgender awareness, indigenous perspectives, and decolonizing education, land, and perspectives on Islam. The details will be posted, are actually currently posted on the HDSB website. Now we go to the land and territory acknowledgement. I, Wonuola Yomiodedei, on behalf of the Halton District School Board and all those present tonight, wish to do the land acknowledgement. Halton, as we know it today, is rich in history and modern traditions of many First Nations and the Métis, from the Anishinaabe to the Atawandaron, the Haudenosaunee, and the Métis. These lands surrounding the Great Lakes are steeped in indigenous history. As we gather today on these treaty lands, we have the responsibility to honor and respect the four directions: land, waters, plants, animals, ancestors that worked before us, and all the wonderful elements of creation that exist. We would like to acknowledge and thank the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation for sharing their territory with us. It is important for us to acknowledge that many indigenous people lived on these lands in more recent history, but we acknowledge that this land is Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and treaty territory. Out of respect for the community wishes and to recognize history and the relationship to the land, please refer to the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation without the word new. So the experiential learning, this is why we're here today. So we need to ask the what, the so what, and then the now what. So what are we doing? So why are we doing it? After we have done it, what are the learning that we have learned? So this series is called the Getting Ready for Experiential Learning. And in answer to the question, what is experiential learning? Experiential learning can be defined as learning approach in which students actively engage in a developmental experience we call the what. Reflect thoughtfully on why that experience was relevant to them and their understanding of a concept, the so what, and apply their new understanding to related challenges in the world around them, the now what. So getting ready for Experiential Learning Series. This is the third of the four-part series, and we look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same place. Today is the fourth of a five-part virtual series for grades 7 to 12, 8 DSB students and their families to learn more about various ways to engage in exciting experiential learning opportunities in your high school and your local community. Tune in every Thursday until March 3rd from 4:30 to 5:15 p.m. to learn about the topic of the week and to hear from HDSB and community experts sharing valuable information and advice and answering your question. So today we're partnering with the YMCA Youth Employment and Training Services. And I am pleased to welcome Ms. Kelly Need from the YMCA, our valuable guest speaker. She's going to share with us some tips and tricks on getting ready, attending, and also what we need to do immediately after an interview. I would like all of you to help me welcome Ms. Kelly Need. And also, I would like to quickly remind us that if we have any question for Ms. Kelly, jot them down and go to bit.ly/ELS series February 24th. So we're going to take your questions at the end of Ms. Need's presentation. Thank you, everybody. Please welcome Ms. Kelly Need. Thank you, Kelly. It's over to you now.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your warm welcome. And thank you for having me tonight. I'm looking forward to helping you out with your interview skills. So just a quick start off of our services and what we offer. I'm with the YMCA Employment and Training Programs, and we basically assist people, anyone who's looking for employment, looking for education or training options, new to Ontario, new to the workforce, so maybe looking for your first job or first volunteer opportunity, or if you're interested in working in a skilled trade. So you can basically receive personalized help with your resume, cover letter, job search, job matching and placement, and mock interviews to help you prepare for the big day. Or you can come and explore education options, apprenticeships, or second career. So our programs that we serve are our basic employment services. We also have our Youth Job Connection, which is ages 15 to 29. This is also a paid program. So you'd be receiving payment options of doing weekly workshops while getting assistance for any employment, education needs, as well as a Youth Job Connection summer program that are ages 15 to 18. We also offer literacy and basic skills and apprenticeship options. So to start off our presentation today on interview skills, so basically, what is an interview? So an interview is a job interview that's a conversation between a job applicant and an employer that assesses to see if the applicant should be hired for the role. So basically seeing if the applicant is a perfect fit for the role and what they basically bring to the job position, volunteer position, or whatever it is that the interview is for. So various types of interviews. The most common one is one-on-one interviews. So meeting with an employer, with just you and the employer, to discuss the interview. There's also the option of telephone interviews and video calls. Both telephone and interviews and video call interviews have been a lot more popular these days with the pandemic and everything, and offering people the virtual option of conducting the interview. Some other interview types are group interviews where you might have a few other candidates in the interview as well. Another one is all-day interviews where it's kind of like a test trial into the job position, volunteer position, as well as a panel interview, which is you amongst a number of other staff members. And then a technical interview is another one to display your skill set and see how your skills would reflect in the current role. So, before starting your interview, the most important stage is the interview preparation. So, preparing for the interview prior to your interview date definitely helps to boost your confidence. And the more you're prepared, the more confident you will be. So, just boosting that confidence through preparing helps get rid of those, pre interview nerves and those pre jitters and helps build that confidence. So, the first step is again to prepare. So, prepare your responses to possible interview questions, as well as researching the company, but also researching the position that you're applying to. Again, that could be a job position, a volunteer position, any type of aspect where they're interviewing you for a specific role. So you definitely want to research, the role that you're interviewing for, and research possible interview questions and prepare your answers to those questions. As well as choosing an appropriate interview outfit and planning out your transportation. So ensuring that you either have a drive, you have your bus route ready, a friend to take you to ensure that you're there on time, as well as practicing. So taking those interview questions and practicing your answers to them. Google can be another great key for this of, Googling interview questions and answers just to kind of get a good idea of, how should I answer this question? What are the answers that the employer is looking for? You can also ask any family, friends, teachers, other students at school to help evaluate your answers, as well as a mock interview. And that way you can get some feedback back of, maybe suggestions of how to answer the question. So that way, again, you're fully prepared for the interview and you feel confident and ready to go when the interview comes. And so basically, you want to prep for an interview same way you would a test of, basically studying ahead of time, not cramming it in the night before, getting a good amount of sleep, having, a breakfast in the morning if it's a morning interview, and just believing in yourself and having that confidence. So another part for interview prep is preparing a personal statement. So I'm going to get into this a little bit more further into our presentation with interview questions, but one of the most popular interview questions that's usually asked at the start of the interview is to tell me a bit about yourself. So you want to have this prepared for the interview, again, boosting that confidence, and you want to tell the employer, the person interviewing you, a little bit of yourself, but you want it to be related to what it is that the interview is for. So you want to talk about any previous work experience you've had, any educational situations, maybe major group assignments or presentations you've done, your personality and your work ethic. So, any skills that you have, maybe you're a very friendly people person. You want to display skills like that, just to basically show the employer who you are. So you want to highlight everything positive, make sure you have your skills ready, make sure you have all of your experience with backup statements of, previous work experience and your abilities, even, anything you've learned in school, your hobbies, your passions, all of this. So what to bring to an interview. So you want to bring a copy of your resume and your cover letter to the interview, as well as a list of good references. You also want to bring a notebook and a pen, any bus route or driving directions, a copy of the job posting to, review on your way to the interview, or just to have as reference. A printout of the company's website's homepage could also be helpful again, just so that way you can show the interviewer that, you know the knowledge about whether it's the company, organization, and what it is that you're applying for, as well as be prepared with any questions to ask the interviewer. So upon arrival, you want to make sure that you arrive to the interview about 5 to 10 minutes early, again, preparing for any unexpected circumstances that's going to prevent you from being late. You also want to check your appearance. So dress for success, making sure you have a interview appropriate outfit that's professional. Avoid any strong scents and no gum or candy during the interview. You want to avoid bringing any food or beverages with you. You can bring water, but avoiding any maybe a McDonald's drink or a coffee. You want to announce yourself when you get there, again with clear spoken tone and polite, and just let them know who you are and what you're there for. Excuse me. And again, you want to offer a handshake, maintain eye contact, and smile to every single staff member that you might encounter where you're there. You also want to avoid cell phone use. So, while you're waiting for your interviewer, you don't want to be sitting on your cell phone seeming distracted or anything. Okay, now for references for the interview. So often at the end of the interview, they will ask you if you have any references. We recommend that you don't list this on the resume. Rather, you create a reference sheet to provide at the interview. So you want to choose references who will make strong recommendations. So this could be someone who you had a prior relations with in the past. You could even be one of your teachers, maybe a supervisor at a volunteer situation, a supervisor at a past job experience, basically anyone who kind of knows your work ethic, knows who you are. And you also want to make sure you get their permission. So you want to get their permission, make sure it's okay to provide their name and their phone number, and then also give them a heads up following the interviews, just so that way they're prepared to receive a phone call. And you also want to provide a copy of your resume with the references and maintain contact with your references as well. So, maybe a couple of days after the interview, find out if they've contacted your references, see how that conversation went. And it's a pretty good idea to see, what stage the interviewer's at in the interview process. Okay, so this is just an example of a reference sheet. So you basically want to have the person's first and last name, their job title, or basically the relationship they are to you. So that could be, again, your teacher, or any of that, their phone number, their email, and again, another kind of brief description of who they were to you and how you know them. So they also recommend, avoid using any family or anyone too personal. You want to make sure it's, mainly professional contacts, but again, even a close friend is okay as well. Okay, so for the interview, what are they assessing and what are they evaluating on? So they're basically seeing your ability to learn and process information, your interests, your goals, and your work values, your skills, abilities, and motivation, who you are, your personality, teamwork, interpersonal skills, your verbal expression, whether that's communication skills, as well as nonverbal communication. So that's your body language, eye contact, smiling. They look at all of this to basically assess you to see if you were the correct fit for this position. So again, that's when they go into any job relevant knowledge. So your past experiences, the research you've done on the company, what you know about the company or the organization, what you know about the role that you are applying for, and as well as any education and training that you have that may be relevant to the job position, as well as your overall interview performance. Again, basically just to see how you would perform in that job. And again, seeing if you are the correct fit for this position. So again, some nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is very important during the job interview. Again, you want to be maintaining eye contact, smiling. You want to have, open chest, open, you're not crossed legs, not crossed arms, just so that way you can show the interviewer and the employer that you're open and you're listening and you're active listening. You also want to make sure, you're clear spoken, you're loud enough they can hear you. You have good posture, you're wearing the right appropriate interview clothes, and all of that. So, they recommend avoiding, don't be yawning or stretching or rolling your eyes, constantly, maybe breaking eye contact, looking at the clock, fidgeting too much. So, just anything that will make the employer seem that you're not interested in being at the interview. Okay, so now for the actual interview stage of some common interview questions that are commonly asked during interviews. So again, the first one we've already discussed a little bit of tell me about yourself. So again, you want to keep it, within experiences and within more of a professional state, but you can also go on about your work ethic, your personality, and who you really are as a person, but you want to tie it into a way that's going to benefit you and the employer and what you bring to this role pretty much. So another question is, why should we hire you? So with this question, it's basically bringing your knowledge and your skill set to the employer and showing them how you're going to do good in this role and what you can bring to the company. The next one, your greatest strengths. Similar to the other one, you want to bring skill sets. So you want to have a few different skills already picked out prior to the interview during your preparation stage. These skills should be skills that are relevant to the job position, and that will, again, benefit you in the position and, be relevant on the job posting. So often in the job posting under the qualifications section, they'll list what they're looking for in a candidate. So you really want to focus on the skills that you have that are compared to the job posting and the role itself. The next one, what are your weaknesses? So this one can often be a little bit challenging because, again, you don't want to come off with negative weaknesses or negative skills to the employer that might limit your job duties. So basically with the weaknesses one, you want to turn it from a negative to a positive. So you want to tell the employer a certain trait that you are working to improve on. So for example, that could be maybe organization. So maybe, maybe you struggle with organization a bit. So you could let them know that, organization hasn't been my strongest suit, but then you want to let them know what you're doing to improve that or what you've already done to improve that and what was the result. So, maybe organization's not your best suit. So you went and bought an agenda to keep track of, the tasks that you need to get done. And you found that strongly helped you and you are now ahead of all of your school assignments or, your household chores or any tasks that you have. So again, just remember turning it from a negative to a positive. So something you're currently working on. This just shows the employer, room for growth and improvement and how you take, feedback and how you improve any of your weaknesses. So the next one is, what do you know about our company? So again, this is where the research stage really comes through. You want to make sure that you know about the organization or the company, what they do, even any, morals or values that stand out to you, which also ties into the why do you want to work for our company. So, maybe the organization has morals that align with yours or values, or, maybe they hosted a fundraiser previously that, was very dear to your heart and you enjoyed what they do. Or, maybe you've heard a lot of positive feedback in the community, or it's aligned with some of your passions that, you want to dive more deeper into while getting into your career. So you definitely want to highlight these positives as well. The next one, where do you see yourself in 5 years? So again, you want to make it seem to the interviewer that, you're not just here temporarily. You're not just here to get a paycheck. You're not just here to get your hours. It doesn't have to be something directly related to what it is you're interviewing for, but you do want to slightly relate it a bit. So, discussing about how this position can help you gain more experience and expand your skill set and expand your knowledge to help you in, 5 years from now. The next one is computer programs you're familiar with. So it's not always only computer programs they might ask about. They might ask about, certain softwares, but often, computer programs can include like Microsoft Office, Internet, Adobe, Photoshop, stuff like that. So you want to let them know, these are the programs that have experience with and I'm familiar with, and also letting them know your skill set level with those programs, and letting them know, like, as well as, any previous experience you've had. So say if you've been working on Adobe Photoshop in one of your classes for the last year, you can let them know about that, you work in Photoshop every single day for the last 6 months or so. The next one, what is your greatest achievement? So that can be anything that you're proud of. So whether that's, maybe a big project you had at school that, you got an A on and you felt very proud of yourself for doing. It could even just be a minor achievement of, maybe improving a skill, back to the weaknesses question of, you improved a weakness you had, you improved your organization skills, basically anything that's going to look positive. And it can also relate to the job as well if you do have its specific experience. The next one, what did you like most about your last job? So again, you want to relate this to the current position you're interviewing for as much as possible. So, and again, of course, positive experiences. So, you could always say that what you liked most was the teamwork at your last job. So you felt that everyone had very successful teamwork and you guys were always able to come together and collaborate new ideas or problem solve, anything like that. For the last one is, what did you find most challenging about your last job? So with this one, you want to avoid anything that's too negative. You want to avoid, bad talking any maybe coworkers or superiors you had. You want to avoid bad talking the role itself. If anything, you want to kind of, again, go back to that weakness question and let them know about a challenge that you overcame. So you want to let them know of a specific challenge, what that challenge was, and what you did to overcome it and what was the end result. So again, you want it to be a positive end result. Again, so that way the employer can see, your problem solving skills, have you overcome challenges, and all of that. Okay, some other interview questions that could potentially be asked. Some are, how did you hear about this position? How do you deal with pressure or stressful situations? Again, with this question, you want to refer back to past experiences to show the employer how you've already handled a stressful situation. Another one is, do you prefer working independently or as a team? Again, using previous experiences of how you've used teamwork, maybe achievements that you've succeeded with as a team, or even achievements you've done it independently. Another one is, when are you available to start? So if you're currently unemployed or you don't have any other obligations that require your time, it's more generally recommended to let them know immediately, but also letting them know if, say if maybe next week you have a specific obligation, then letting them know that you can start this day. If you have a job that you need to provide a 2 weeks notice, let them know that, if you are the right candidate for this role, you will be providing 2 weeks notice. So as 2 weeks, that's when you'll be able to start. And the final one is, do you have any questions for us? So this one is very important. And I always say, even if you can't think of any questions, still say yes. Even if it's maybe a question that, you kind of already have an idea to it, still ask the question, because you're going to show the employer or the interviewer that you're interested in the role and you want to know basically all about it. So some questions you could ask about are, what is the day-to-day responsibilities in this position? Or can you share what a day in this role will look like? You could also ask, what are you looking for in a candidate? What responsibilities are expected of me? You could even ask about the hours. What hours am I expected to work? So basically any questions like that can be really helpful. Again, just showing the employer or the interviewer that you're interested in the role. Okay, so another form of interview questions are behavioral questions, also known as situational questions. So these often have openings of, tell me about a time when, what do you do when, have you ever, give me an example of, describe a time when. So some examples are, describe a time when you had to interact with a difficult client or customer. What was the situation and how did you handle it? Another one could be, give me an example about a time you set a goal for yourself. How did you go about ensuring that you would meet that goal or your objective? So basically with these questions, they want to see your past experiences and what you did in those past experiences to get to this goal or, overcome a situation or a challenge. So again, they're targeting your skills and your abilities, your accomplishments. How do you problem solve and how would you benefit to the company? So you want to, again, focus on past experiences. It doesn't only have to be employment experiences, especially if, maybe you're interviewing for your first job. It could be a past experience at school. So maybe a challenging time that, you faced a challenge with a school project or an assignment. Maybe any weaknesses you were struggling to overcome. So you want to basically use specific examples and situations from previous experiences and use that as evidence and backup, and use a backup statement to show the employer, this is how I overcame. So the most common mistake I do see with behavioral questions is when someone's asked a situation of, tell me about a time where you had a challenge and how did you overcome it. A lot of people tend to think in the future sense of, this is what I would do if I was in this situation. So employers prefer to see, again, what you've already done in those scenarios. So the STAR method can definitely help you to answer these type of questions. So the STAR method, the first one, the S, is situation. So that's when you're telling them what the situation was. So again, going back to that challenging question of a time that you had faced a challenge and how did you overcome it. So this is where you want to basically give them a little bit of a background. Where was the challenge? When was this challenge? Maybe this was 2 months ago. Provide a little bit of detail and context. And then the next one is the task. So that's the actual challenge. That's what, you needed to be done. Why did you need to overcome that challenge? What about it? Then the A is the action. So now that's getting to the point of, how did you overcome that challenge? What did you do? What tools did you use? What resources did you use? Maybe you reached out to your guidance counselor, or you reached out to one of your teachers to help assist you, or maybe your challenge was your math homework. You were facing challenges on how to understand the concept, so maybe you reached out to a tutor, or maybe some extra help after school. So that would be the action. The next one for R is results. So that again would be, what were the results from your action? So again, you want to make sure that these results are positive. So if the situation you're thinking about had a negative result, I would avoid that one and use something that had a positive result. So let's say you were struggling with your math homework and you went, and the action was you went and got extra help after school. So now the result could be, you got an 80% on your math exam the following week, or your grades went up and you're starting to get B's and A's, and you're seeing that accomplishment. So you basically want to explain what the results are, explain what the accomplishment was, explain what was the end result that was positive. Okay, again, so just another brief kind of what we went over for behavioral interview tips. So you want to use specific and relevant examples that clearly demonstrate the required behavior. So again, any examples that are, whether at school, previous employment, maybe volunteer employment, maybe school assignments, even just situations in everyday life. And you also want to use recent behavioral examples to support your interview question. So even if it was a few months ago, that's okay as well. And again, remembering the STAR steps. So always just thinking STAR in your head, so okay, what situation was I in? What did I have to do? What action did I take? And what was the end result? And yeah, so that's basically it about the behavioral. Okay, and again, even with behavioral ones too, even if you need a minute to think of a response, that's okay. Just let the employer know, would you mind if maybe I took a minute to think of my response? Or even if you need clarification on a question that's asked in an interview, that's okay as well. An employer or an interviewer would appreciate those questions, because then again, they know that you're practicing active listening and you're really trying to make sure that you're answering the question to the best of your ability, and to the best of your ability to show that you are the correct fit for the role. So basically, after the interview, one, definitely give yourself a pat on the back, take a deep breath. The nerves are gone, it's done and over with. And then you want to assess how you feel and how you think that you did. After that, you want to send the interviewer a thank you within 24 hours. So you want to thank them for their time and their consideration. You want to reference something that you discussed. So, maybe they were talking about a specific project that comes with that role. Maybe you want to let them know that, I really enjoyed discussing that with you. I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. You also want to restate your interest in the job and the company. So again, basically just letting them know, I'm looking forward to hearing back from you about this position, as well as, again, informing your references that they may receive a call, just so that way they're prepared for any calls, and they also have their phone on them, so that way they don't miss that call. That concludes my interview presentation. So thank you for spending the last 30 minutes listening to me. And hopefully that was helpful and you got some good insight of how to prepare for your next interview.
Thank you very much, Kelly. That was very informative and insightful presentation that you have just given us. So I'm sure that all of us have learned a lot from what Kelly has shared with us. So thank you very much for sharing the tips and tricks with us tonight. So it's time to ask your question. Please remember, go to bit.ly/EL series February 24 to ask your questions. But we already have some questions here. And the first one goes thus. What are what are the major tips for getting ready for an in-person versus a virtual interview?
Okay, so the main difference, so the one easier part of a virtual interview is you only really have to make sure you're presentable from waist up type of thing. But in person, you want to make sure first that you have transportation already ready. You know how to get there. You kind of already have your route planned out. So if it's maybe a 10-minute drive from your house or a 20-minute bus ride, you want to make sure that you're leaving on time. You want to maybe pack your bag the night before, making sure that your resume, your reference list, even a bottle of water, your outfit is laid out the night before, making sure it's ironed, free of any wrinkles, clean, professional. Whereas with virtual, you want to make sure that you have a good internet connection, a quiet space where you won't have any interruptions or any background sound, as well as making sure that your camera is working if it's a video call interview, or if it's a phone call interview, making sure your phone is charged, making sure the laptop's charged.
Thank you very much. So this one question came in after the interview. Apart from a thank you note, what can I send? Can I send flowers?
It's not usually recommended. Just a thank you note is usually sufficient enough, especially with anything like that. You know, there might be maybe some allergens, or you also don't want to seem like you're trying too hard or like you're trying to entice the employer to pick you with like gifts or anything. So just a simple thank you note is okay. Maybe flowers would be okay when you get hired, kind of as your first day, kind of, you know, friendly start, maybe some treats or some Timbits or coffee or anything. But just a thank you note would be okay, or a thank you email.
Thank you, Kelly. The next question is it really worth it to bring my portfolio to every interview, or can I attend an interview taking a portfolio and attend other ones? When will I know the right place and time to take a portfolio?
So it's definitely good just to bring it with you, just to have it, just in case. So even if the employer, you know, I've even been in interviews myself in the past where I have my resume, I have everything with me, and the employer already has a copy in front of them. But at least if the employer was to ask for it, you're already prepared with it. You have it with you. So it doesn't hurt just to bring it with you. Because again, too, maybe there's some projects, or maybe, you know, maybe any like artistic type of projects you've done that you want to display to the employer. It's kind of hard to really know when the time will be needed until you're really in the interview. So that's why it's good just to have it prepared with you, and making sure it's, you know, in a folder, keeping it in an envelope, in your bag or in your hand, and just having it ready in there with you, just in case if it's asked. And that way it shows the interviewer that you're prepared and ready.
Okay. Thank you, Kelly. The next question actually asks about the practical tips and steps that one can take about the nervousness and the butterflies in the stomach that people normally experience before an interview. Because as we know, some people don't interview well. So how can you do it? You still need to be interviewed so that you can show your stuff and show that you are actually really good. They want to employ you. So what are the practical tips that you have for people to get rid of the pre-interview anxiety?
So I would say practice as much as possible. Even if you're at the point where you feel like you've been practicing for days, still keep practicing, because that helps boost your confidence, because you're ready for any questions that you may be asked. As well as, you know, making sure you get a good sleep, eating properly, drinking lots of water that day, and just being prepared ahead of time. So again, laying out everything you need the night before, making sure you're practicing, get some feedback from, you know, any maybe teachers at school, guidance counselors, even, you know, you can call us at the YMCA to do a practice mock interview of practicing as well too. Sometimes just those deep breaths and that positive self-talk. So just keep telling yourself, you know, that you're going to do great. You got this. You're going to do great. You know, just practicing that positive self-talk, blocking out any negative thoughts that might be popping through. Again, I know that's easier said than done. But it's also normal to have any nervousness before the interview, and most employers do kind of expect that. They're used to it. You know, if you feel like you maybe stuttered, if you said too much in an interview, that's okay. It happens. We're all human. You know, definitely just do your best, the best you can do. And again, just keep practicing so that way you're prepared ahead of time for the interview, knowing about the place that you're going to have the interview, knowing about the job role, knowing really what skills they're looking for, what qualifications they're looking for, and being prepared to answer those questions with the employer.
Thank you. Oh, we have lots of questions tonight. That's really, really
That's
good.
good.
Yeah. Is there a certain amount of references you require? Also, this is a 2-in-1. Also, how can you connect with the interviewer so that you stand out?
Okay, so usually they recommend about 3 references, 3 professional references. Again, that can be a mixture of previous supervisors, teachers, colleagues, friends, any of that. And to stand out, that's a good question. So definitely at the end of the interview, ask the employer, is there a follow-up email or a phone call? And again, just sending that thank you and letting them know that you enjoyed that time with them and you're very grateful they offered you the opportunity. I even sometimes recommend including in that follow-up interview of saying, good luck with finding the correct candidate. That just shows that you have a positive attitude, that even if you're not chosen, you still wish them the best. You still wish them positivity in finding the correct candidate. So again, just being yourself, being professional, and, preparing yourself so that way, you can make yourself stand out the most, and just being prepared to show them, this is who I am, this is what I've done, and showing them your confidence can definitely help too. But again, just kind of following up professionally, and letting them know that you're grateful for the opportunity and that you wish them the best in finding the correct candidate, and that basically you look forward to hearing back from them. And if you are lucky enough to get the position, you would be very grateful and you would do the best of your ability to be the best person for the job.
Thank you. We have one more question. How can students practice their interview responses before they actually get there? These are
Okay, so my biggest suggestion is writing them out ahead of time. So there's a lot of really good resources on Google where you can just do a quick Google search of interview questions and answers. A lot of them will list the questions. So similar to the question of what are your strengths, they'll have a list of answers, how to answer those questions. Even doing a quick Google search to see, a list of various different skills that you may have, and skills that are listed in the job posting. But yeah, so sorry, do you mind repeating the question for me again? I feel like I missed it.
the question is, how can students practice their interview responses before they actually get there? What if they ask this question, what are the possible answers that I can give to impress the interviewer? Because it's all about standing out, right?
Yeah, exactly, for sure. So again, Googling the answers and seeing how to best to respond and what it is that employers are really looking for in the responses. So again, that's where the job posting comes in to play again. If they have a list of, what skills are they looking for, you want to use that skill set and then use your own experiences and your own backup statements to back up those skills. So again, maybe the employer is looking for someone who can handle a fast-paced environment. So, maybe you have experience working in food service or you volunteered at a very busy environment type of thing. You want to use those to show the employer that this is what you want. This is who I am. I meet those expectations. I meet those requirements and I have the skills that you're looking for. And again, kind of how to practice those answers, reach out to us, call us, set up a mock interview. Maybe if you have any resources at school or even just ask one of your friends to kind of, give you feedback of how to answer and, assess the questions, or your parents, older siblings, cousins. And even LinkedIn can be another good resource of looking up people who are already in that role and seeing if, maybe there's a networking option of they can help you with mock interviews to really see what it is that this employer is looking for.
Thank you. We have one more question. Yeah, I thought that was the last one, but we have another one from Aldershot. And some of us, I didn't really read out the names of the school. We had questions from M.M. Robinson, White Oaks, Iroquois Ridge, and this one is coming from Aldershot. So this is really, really nice. We've covered all the regions, right? So when I arrive, would I want to have all my stuff ahead of time? But what other items should I bring with me, like a bag and backup question? Yeah.
Yeah, bags are okay as well, especially too if you want to kind of keep your stuff in there so that way, your hands aren't full with, a folder, a water bottle, your phone. Especially since too sometimes, there's if you don't have pockets in your outfit that you're wearing. So again, bringing a copy of your resume, again, it's similar to a portfolio, a copy of your references, a bottle of water, a pen, and a notebook if you want to take notes. But it's totally okay to, have that all inside of a purse or a backpack or any type of bag that you choose to use. But I also recommend getting a file folder for any of the paperwork you do have. So keeping your resume in either a file folder or those letterhead envelopes to make sure, that it's not having any creases or any damage or if anything spills inside of your bag. But yeah, it's definitely okay to bring any bags or stuff like that.
Thank you, thank you. And this brings us to the end of the questions. So thank you everybody who has been here with us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Kaylee, for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you for
Thanks
having
to
me.
Thanks to all our students, staff, and parents who have taken the time out of your busy schedule to attend this event on interviewing skills. We look forward to seeing you next week, same place, same time. Stay safe, take care of yourself, and we'll see you next week. So thank